with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moli wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful city of Irvine in the great state of California. We are so delighted and so honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, Ghana, Himalaya, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Maria Didio. She's here to celebrate many people to love and how I wonder where you are. Before we invite Anna Maria to join us in the studio, we want to invite you to join us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids. At Reading With Your Kids on Instagram. At Reading With Your Kids on TikTok. We have a great Reading With Your Kids page on Pinterest. We also have a fantastic Reading With Your Kids page on YouTube. If you're on Twitter, please be sure to follow at Jedley Magic. And of course, we would love it if you could visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can sign up for our free newsletter, which is about to transform itself into a great online magazine. You can also use the contact button at the top of the page to let us know what we're doing well, let us know what we could be doing better, and let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. Join us right now from the beautiful city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Our guest is here today to celebrate a couple of really wonderful children's books, Many People to Love and How I Wonder Where You Are. Please welcome to the show, Anna Maria Didio. Hey, Anna Maria, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to have you on. I love the title of the first book I mentioned, Many People to Love. It immediately reminds me of the former pastor of our church who used to begin all his homilies, his sermons with the phrase, so much to be thankful for. So many people in our lives to be thankful for. And I just love that because I think it's just a reminder that no matter what the stresses and strains and problems we may be experiencing, we do have a lot that we're thankful for. And one of those things I'm thankful for is that there are so many people in our lives that love us and that we can love.
And that's the message of the children's book. As you know, my topic is adoption, foster care, and all blended families. And the story is about an international adoption. And at the end of the story, the realization of many people to love is there. So yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah. First off, I do this every time we have an author on who's been involved in either foster care or adoption. And I want to tip my hat and thank you for making that choice. It's a beautiful choice. It's a difficult choice. It's not a choice that everybody can make, but it's wonderful, and it truly can change the trajectory of somebody's life.
Yes, totally agree. Yeah, it's not a path for everyone, but and we went down that road once or twice, and then we ended up having a child. And then when we wanted to add to that family, we couldn't do it and then chose adoption.
Yeah. You know, just as you were speaking, I'm reminded of a conversation I had early on in my performing career. It was before my son was born. And I was in a school right outside of Philadelphia, and the music, I think it was a music teacher, the acting teacher, theater teacher, was talking to me between shows, and he was explaining to me that he had a family of 4. And he said, God blessed me and my wife with 2 kids, biological kids, and we decided to thank him by adopting 2 kids that were in need of a family. And I thought that was just beautiful.
Yeah, terrific, yes.
So what story are we going to learn in Many People to Love?
First, the memoir is about my own, of course, adoption experience, adoption journey to Mexico to adopt our daughter. But then when I finished the book and began, talking and writing and promoting it, my daughter will kill me if I wrote any more about her. So I decided to switch subjects, and the events in the book, Many People to Love, are all true, inspired by real happenings. But the story is about Carla, who was adopted from Colombia, and her integration into a family in the United States, and all the things that she has to get used to. New food, new family, new surroundings, and just how she acclimates to her new world. That's the first book.
That's really beautiful. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm here talking about adoption and foster care is this absolutely beautiful thing when there's no issues and no troubles and everybody gets together and lives happily ever after. It is hard for families, and it's hard for kids coming into a family. There's a lot of challenges that everybody has to deal with and experience.
That's exactly right. It's often described as the myth of adoption. Some couples, perhaps, who are not prepared for the journey, are, a little bit surprised. But children, and the book is meant to communicate that there are very, very difficult moments. There are times when children will be, of course, very angry. There's acting out. There's it's just not a smooth road, and it does take time. But, again, my overall message, Many People to Love, is at the end of the day, love honestly does not solve everything. And it does take a lot of work to integrate these children into families. And that's what I hope to give parents some resources and some courage for that journey.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense that a kid coming from a home or a foster home or some type of group setting from another country coming here will come with a bit of a chip on their shoulder, with some anger, some disappointment, some sadness in their hearts that would make it difficult for them to allow themselves to make themselves vulnerable to fall in love with a new family. Exactly.
And the second book sort of focuses on that exact feeling, that exact emotion. And it's sometimes referred to as disenfranchised grief. And it's grief that the child is experiencing that's often ignored or sort of minimized by society. Children are often told, you're so lucky, or people would tell me when I adopted my daughter, oh, isn't she lucky to be adopted by such a great family? Well, that may be true, but the child is experiencing a very difficult transition in adapting to that family and really missing their old life. This is particularly true, and I didn't add this. My daughter was almost 7 when we adopted her. And so those memories from her previous life are very, very clear in her mind. And the same with anything, food and smells and previous caregivers. All those things are very difficult transitions. And those are the kinds of things that I'd like to, in foster or adoptive situations, that I'm trying to get, parents just to think about, perhaps open the conversation. And I'm hoping my books will do that.
Yeah. Well, brings up a topic that we talk a lot about here. What kind of conversations do you imagine families, not only families that have chosen to be adoptive parents, but also families that haven't made that choice but are wanting to be supportive of the families that they encounter who are adopting?
The first is just understanding what those dynamics are. I don't know if your listeners may be familiar with the concept called Primal Wound, and it's a concept that's been around the adoption world for many years, and that's the wound that's created when the child is separated from biological mother, a traumatic separation. And just the foundation is that all adoption begins with trauma, separation, and loss. So just realizing that kind of puts everything in perspective, whether that child was adopted at an infancy or a little bit older. But for families and their extended families and friends, to be aware that those transitions, at any point in the process are not always easy.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a beautiful thing to remind kids of, especially kids. We talk about books being mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. Mirrors, being able to see themselves in the pages of books. I love to focus on the window aspect of books, allowing kids to look into other people's lives, and a great way to develop understanding and also empathy. And I think if there's a kid in school and there's an adoptive kid comes into the classroom, what a important thing for our kids to understand is that child has gone through a tremendous trauma in their lives.
Mm-hmm. And change is so difficult in their young lives, and they have attachments, they have, feelings and things that they're not even understanding at this point, where their life is going. And it's just, it's probably very anxiety producing. And this grief that I mentioned is I say in my book, grief is in my note to parents, I say grief is a complex emotion. It's not all one way or one level or solved at any point. So sometimes there are tears and tantrums and children make up stories and act out. And that's all part of it. So, in the book, I have some of that, just to demonstrate how difficult the journey is and hoping, again, parents can open that conversation, recognize it and see it for what it is and deal with it effectively.
Yeah. Your second book that we're talking about, How I Wonder Where You Are, I'm just imagining a young girl from Colombia or from Russia or from China lying in bed at night, grateful that she's in a warm bed with a family that loves her, but also lying down and thinking, where is my biological family? Where is my biological mom? How is she doing? Does she think about me?
Yes. You're hitting all of my points as if you've read the book. It's very, again, the point of the book is just kind of allowing and realizing that wandering is going to happen. Who do I look like? I don't look like these people. Sometimes there are triggering events. The book, the arc of the story is that the young girl adopted. Her name is Carla, and she has to create a family tree. And sometimes these school events around family trees or culture they're very triggering for children that are in blended families and adopted families.
Yeah. So how does an adoptive mom answer those questions when they come up?
Well, the first step and one of my goals of the book is really acceptance. Mm-hmm. Back to the "you're so lucky" school of thought. That may be true, but just realizing that this child has lost something and recognizing it and perhaps answering questions about what happened to this child previously. And with that, in my note to parents, I say, make sure the child knows his or her own adoption story or foster care story with no secrets. Be truthful to what with what you can share as a parent, and be open and above board and then seek the help of professionals when needed. But just that kind of, attitude or little culture within a family just will tell this child that, what they're feeling and thinking is perfectly natural and normal. And this is your family now, and we'll try to help you as much as we can.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned professionals. You're not speaking about this just from your experience as a adoptive parent. You are a social worker yourself. Am I right about that?
I am a social worker. I've not practiced in the social work field, but I do have an educational background in social work.
The one of the things that I hear is, and the term was just introduced to you not too long ago, the idea of transracial adoption, where a family of one race adopts a child of another race or ethnicity. And I hear some folks have a problem with that. Where do you come down on that issue, that controversy, if I'm correct in using the term?
Well, my personal feeling is that if the parents think that they are ready for that journey and able to embrace what it takes to have a child of another race within their family, then they should do it. I mean, back to the logic of many people to love. I mean, there are many children out there needing a home. So I think if parents, as I said, are ready for that journey, they should do it. My thought is, I can share that within our own family, when we adopted this young girl from Mexico, we tried to embrace her culture as much as we could. And after just a few months, she lost her ability to speak Spanish. And many years later, with our support and her hard work, she reclaimed that language. So we visited Mexico many times and kept in contact with her orphanage and her caregivers, and she did a study abroad in college in Mexico. So I think that, again, understanding what that process is and knowing what it takes to help your child is what is demanded of the situation. So parents that are ready for that and can do that, that's wonderful.
One of the things that you've mentioned here a couple of times is that saying something to someone who's been adopted, oh, you're so lucky, may not be the best thing to say. I was just sitting here thinking that instead of saying to somebody, oh, you're so lucky, I would probably be motivated to say, I'm really lucky that you came into my life.
Exactly. Because again, how worlds change. It was, I think of my daughter going to sleep in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and living in an orphanage where she had lived for almost 7 years. And then the next day, going to sleep in suburban Philadelphia. So how jarring is that? Mm-hmm. And just the pain that she experienced. And I try to, as much as you're prepared for it, you're not prepared for it. But again, you're so right. All the people that she met, they were so lucky. And, I think the community and the friends that she made all benefited from her experience.
Yeah. So there's a family or 2 or 3 or maybe 300 listening right now that have been thinking about becoming a foster family or becoming an adoptive parent. And they're still like, oh, I love what Anna Maria is saying. And yeah, but I don't know if I'm as strong as she is. What would you say to that family?
I would say, get as much information as you can. There are so many resources. I can remember when we first started, I was just grabbed the phone book and called single listing under adoption to talk to agencies and see where, what their rules were and what resources they had. But now there's just so much out there. And this is a topic that is much more open and out there and discussed today. So there are support groups and there are, meetup groups. And I would say that's extremely important. If you're thinking about adopting, or fostering a child, is to network with other families and parents that have done so. And they will have, stories for you. They will have, advice. And if you're in the beginning stages and you've made the leap, then there are professionals that are very, focused and prepared to help families with this process.
Yeah. And, because I've never gone through it, I've heard little bits and pieces. Can you just talk real quickly about the process if somebody's ready to say, yes, I'm ready to open up my heart and my arms and our doors? How long can it take?
It can take 1 to 2 years for an international adoption. And there are some things that are very specific to countries that I'm not aware of. I used to follow different rules and laws, but laws have changed so much over the course of the last few years, and some countries are now closed. So that's really one of the most important decisions, either an international or domestic adoption. So whether and then the foster to adopt situation. There are foster children out there that you would welcome into your home that are eligible for adoption. So that's another route. So there are so many possibilities. I'd say the first step would really be to narrow down, just how, where, and when, and what your preferences are for a family in terms of age and that kind of thing. And then check out the resources connected to that.
Yeah. I have a friend that is a recording artist, and he told me his story. He was dad to 5 biological kids.
Wow.
And felt an urge to become an adoptive parent, and found this child in Russia and had a dream about her. And then when he saw this picture, like, that's the kid I was dreaming about. It's meant to be. And then went to Russia, filled out the forms, and was ready to bring her home. And the people at the orphanage said, by the way, she has 2 siblings. Could you take them all? And he said, of course. And when he found that out, he flew home. And then when he arrived at home, he discovered that his wife was expecting another child. So he went from a father of 5 to 9 in the course of just a few months. And he couldn't be happier. He sings about it. He tells his story. It's just an incredible story.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Life can change so unpredictably, but yes. And I've heard that. I mean, there are sometimes you don't really know, especially with international adoption, there are, so many stories and so many children. So it does take, perseverance, dedication, financial, wherewithal, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yes. Cause it's not free. There is some cost involved, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about you, to find out more about your memoir for adults, Love at the Border, and find out more about your 2 kids' books, Many People to Love and How I Wonder Where You Are.
Well, first I would direct people to my website, amdidio.com. That's amdidio.com. And on the website, I have, of course, links to purchase the books on Amazon. I have a little bit more about me. I have links to some of my other writings, some articles. So yes, Love at the Border is the memoir. And then the 2 books that follow are Many People to Love and How I Wonder Where You Are.
Yeah. And is there a website that you know of that a family that's considering adoption or fostering can go to maybe take the first steps in that process?
Well, it really depends on where they live. So I would say if you're, thinking about such a thing, Googling in your state would be really the best first step, because then there are agencies and law firms and things that are connected with, geographically where you live that would be most helpful to you.
And, you acknowledge the difficulties, the challenges. As you sit back and you reflect on all those challenges, the expenses that you and your family went through, do you regret becoming an adoptive parent?
Oh my gosh. No, because I mentioned she was an older child. So we had a daughter who by that time was 8 years old. So she had been an only child, and so it changed her life in a profound way. So we became this family of 3 to 4, and it just was kind of a wonderful and sometimes painful dynamic. So we all, learn so much, and honestly continue to learn so much, even though the girls are older now. There are different needs and different things that we all learn from each other, but it's been a wonderful family experience.
Wonderful. I love that. I love it. And I love you for making this choice and welcoming this child into your home. And it's such a beautiful story. We want to encourage everybody to go check out your website, check out the books, Many People to Love and How I Wonder Where You Are, as well as the adult memoir, Love at the Border. Our guest has been Anna Maria Didio. Hey, Anna Maria, thanks so much for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation and sharing.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Anusha Sayed. She'll be here to celebrate That's Not My Name. That's the next episode of the podcast. Hey, if you are the author of a fantastic children's book, we would love to help you celebrate that book. There are so many ways we can help you celebrate your book, and you can learn all about them by going to readingwithyourkids.com and clicking on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. You could be a guest here on the podcast, giving you a chance in a long-form conversation to tell the world about your fantastic children's book. You can also submit your book to our Certified Great Read panel. If they believe that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a Certified Great Read. And so many authors have benefited from that program. Oh, and you can also take part in our monthly promotion program. We'll celebrate your book through commercials here on the podcast, shout-outs to our 100,000-plus social media followers, display your book on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards, and also have you with us at whatever live event we may be taking part of in a given month. Learn all about that and more by going to readingwithyourkids.com and clicking on the Authors Click Here button. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Anna Maria Didio. Please be sure to check out her beautiful books, Many People to Love and How I Wonder Where You Are. I also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grading, Mirabella Q. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.